Well, hey there, guys. Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show podcast, coming from right here in my quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and it's American Thanksgiving. Real Thanksgiving's in October, but it's American Thanksgiving, and we do this show in the United States, and so I've given the rest of the crew the day off. So everybody watching, please bear with me today as I am doing everything. I'm doing the graphics, the audio, the switching, the cameras, talking, all that kind of stuff. So I'm doing all myself today, so please bear with me. Good to have all you guys here. Glad that some of you have found a reason to sneak away from the in-laws for a little bit as we talk about our favorite things in the world. Movies and movie news, TV and streaming, all sorts of good things. Now, listen, normally on the John Campea Show, for those of you guys who watch on a regular basis, you know that at some point we take live questions. And normally we take live questions from our tip link on the show, which is at www.streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip. That tip link is good 24 hours a day. But when I do the show live, it's a little difficult for me to keep that refreshed and everything. So we still do take live questions during shows that I do solo, but we use the super chat feature to do that. So if you are watching live and you have a question to ask, go ahead and send it on in the super chats. And I'll let you know when I'm going to turn those off. And for those of you who have sent in questions on the tip link, don't worry. Monday, when Jonathan and the rest of the crew are here, we'll get all caught up on all the questions that got sent in to the tip link. Good to have you guys here. My wife and family have taken off. My wife and Ray and their mom and our buddy Ryan and their sister, they've all taken off to Morongo Casino. It's a Thanksgiving Day tradition the last couple of years. Go to Morongo Casino, go shopping at the outlet malls there. We have lunch at the restaurant there and all that kind of stuff. But I stayed home to do this show. I'll go and catch up with them a little bit later. So it's good to have all you guys here joining me today. I'm actually surprised how many of you guys are here on Thanksgiving. We just started and we've already got 600 people in the live chat. Good to have you guys here. And without any further ado, we got a couple of topics that we need to discuss. So let's get on it and talk about this. James Gunn, of course, we've got a brand new Superman movie coming that I'm ludicrously excited for. I cannot wait. Again, I don't think the movie's going to do huge at the box office because, again, it's going to take time to rehabilitate the DC's image with the audience. They got to win back the audience, and that's going to take time, and it's going to take great movies. Hopefully Superman will be that great movie. And even if it doesn't make a ton of money, and I don't expect it'll make a ton of money, it'll lay the groundwork for changing people's opinions about DC, win people back over to set up future movies for success. I'm very excited about it. And one of the things that everybody's excited about is the trailer. You know, James Gunn is famous. They finished shooting the movie. The movie's done. Well, at least the shooting of the movie's done. They're still doing post-production. And everybody's now just kind of waiting with bated breath. When are we going to get that trailer? Now, I personally think the best idea for James Gunn to drop a Superman trailer is at the Super Bowl. Because help me out, guys. Guys in the live chat, when does the movie come out? I believe it's July. Unless you guys correct me, I'm going to say it's July. So the movie comes out in July, right? So you drop this first Superman trailer at the Super Bowl in February, right? And Iceness and Frosty are all saying, yeah, it's July. So you drop this trailer at Super Bowl in February. You'll have the biggest splash, the biggest impact. And the movie is still February, March, April, May, June, July. The movie's still 5 months away. To me, the perfect time to put out the Superman trailer is probably Super Bowl in February. But it does sound like we're going to get one sooner than that. It sounds like we're going to get one before Christmas. Now, with that said, there are reports going around saying that you guys have probably seen some of these. The first Superman trailer is a disaster. Warner Brothers rejects new Superman trailer. If some of you guys have seen these reports, I assume, out there, saying the studio is not happy with the Superman trailer and all that kind of stuff. Well, James Gunn heard this and decided to respond to this claim that the studio is not happy with the Superman trailer because of one very big obvious reason. James Gunn is the studio. This comes to us from the folks over at Comic Book Movie who wrote the following. I'm going to read this at length because it's well done. He goes, these days, there's perhaps no better way to get clout on Twitter than making unsubstantiated claims. Yesterday, quote unquote, writer, columnist, filmmaker Dan Marcus, who just for the record, I have no ill feelings towards because I've never heard of him. So I'm not trying to say anything bad about Dan Marcus whatsoever. I've never heard of the guy. I don't know anything good about him. Don't know anything bad about him. Just he's got this Twitter account. And all these headlines you've seen about Superman trailer in trouble, studio rejects Superman trailer. It all comes from this one tweet that Dan Marcus put out, claimed to have learned that there is quote unquote enormous pressure from Warner Brothers for the Superman teaser trailer to be received well. He claims that the multiple versions have been presented to the studio only for them to be left wanting more. Pushed for clarification, he claimed that the trailer editor showed a cut to Michael DeLuca from Warner Brothers. Now, just so you know, Michael DeLuca and Pam Abdy are the two co-chairs of the Warner Brothers Picture Group, right? David Zaslav is the whole head boss of all things Warner Brothers, but the head of the Warner Brothers Picture Group are two people named Michael DeLuca and Pam Abdy. They're very good at their job, but Michael DeLuca and Pam Abdy. So anyway, push for clarification, he claimed that the trailer editor showed a cut to Michael DeLuca from Warner Brothers for approval and that it was met with "make it better." Anyone who knows anything about how marketing campaigns like this work will be aware that it's perfectly normal for a studio to create several cuts of a trailer. As this is true, as a matter of fact, you guys know I did a documentary on movie trailers. It's called Movie Trailers, A Love Story. Go and find it on Amazon Prime today. And in Movie Trailers, A Love Story, I had a chance to sit down and interview the heads of the most predominant trailer house in Hollywood. And one of the things they talked about is that, yeah, whenever we get an order in to make a trailer, we'll make several versions, many versions, and then we start cutting it down, narrowing it down, take the best of this, best of that, and make it. So the fact that there are multiple cuts of the trailer is completely normal. So anyway, going on with what CBM wrote. Each will have a different look and feel as executives attempt to figure out how best to promote the upcoming film. DC Studios co-CEO and Superman writer-director James Gunn was asked about the rumor that the studio didn't like the trailers on Threads, and after acknowledging that it's quote-unquote sort of true, he explained just how off-base this rumor is. In fairness, Marcus did tell his followers to take what he was saying with a grain of salt and said it was just what I've heard. This is what James Gunn said. When he says studio, that's solely me. James Gunn is saying, I am the studio. I am the co-CEO and chairman of DC Studios. I'm the studio. All right. When he says studio, that's solely me, as the only studio involved in cutting or anything to do with the trailer is DC Studios, i.e. me and Peter. I'm the creatively demanding one, he explained. This is the exact same rigorous process I've gone through, cutting every Guardians trailer, pushing the marketing folks as hard as I can, cutting and recutting until I think we have something worthy of the film itself. Gunn added, all that said, my notes are a lot more specific than make it better. Okay. So there's a couple things I want to point out here. One of the first things that I want to point out is this point that was raised in the initial rumor, that the trailer editor showed a cut to Michael DeLuca from Warner Brothers for approval. All right. Some people may say, and understandably so, John, yeah, James Gunn is the head of DC, but DeLuca and Abdy are the heads of the Warner Brothers Picture Group, so they're James Gunn's boss. No, they're not. They're completely separate. On Warner Brothers' own website, when they were announcing James Gunn and Peter Safran taking over DC, it specifically said this: Gunn and Safran will report directly to David Zaslav, President and Chief Executive Officer of Warner Brothers. They will work closely with Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdy, the co-chairpersons and CEOs of Warner Film Group, but they report to one person and one person only. They report to David Zaslav. They have autonomy. DC Studios has autonomy to make their pictures. It's like saying Kevin Feige was making a trailer for Fantastic Four, and the trailer editor submitted it for approval to Kathleen Kennedy. What? That's a completely different division. That's Lucasfilm. That's a totally different division. Why on earth would the trailer editor be submitting a trailer to Fantastic Four for approval from Kathleen Kennedy? The answer to that is they wouldn't, because that makes no sense. So right off the bat, as soon as you see a rumor saying the trailer editor showed a cut to Michael DeLuca for approval, you know right away this is wrong. You know right away this is wrong. Because Michael DeLuca, while James Gunn will work closely with them, absolutely, James Gunn does not report to them. James Gunn does not need their approval on anything. The only person that the trailer editor is going to be submitting for approval for cuts of the trailer is to James Gunn. Because as Gunn pointed out in here, he is the studio. He is the studio. And as Warner Brothers' own site clarifies, Gunn and Safran do not report to the Warner Brother Motion Picture Group. They report as their own autonomous entity directly to David Zaslav. And again, this is coming directly from the Warner Brothers Discovery website. So right there, you know it's not accurate. Now look, that being said, I mean, yes, several cuts of a trailer will be made. And absolutely, this trailer being good is absolutely vital. Because remember, we're saying that the main thing that this Superman movie needs to do is be good to rehabilitate the image of DC, start to win the fans back over to DC, all that kind of stuff, right? That's the most important thing. And if you're going to do that, you absolutely 100% better make sure that first trailer you put out is a damn good one. You got to get people excited for this movie. You got to get people rammed up, because Mark W is just writing in the live chat, if it's a weak trailer, would it hurt the movie? Absolutely, it'll hurt the movie. It'll 100% hurt the movie. Look at what just happened to Transformers 1. Their first trailer that they put out turned off everybody. Right? Nobody liked the first trailer. And I had to spend like months telling people, guys, listen, I know the first trailer doesn't look all that good, but believe me, they showed us a bunch at CinemaCon and this movie looks wonderful. And so even though the movie was wonderful, it didn't do great. But I would suggest that it's even more important. It's even more important for a movie like Superman, because everybody is already looking for Superman to fail. Everybody is already waiting for Superman to fail. They're waiting for James Gunn and Superman to be bad because, listen, everybody already gave up on DC, right? Nobody went to go see Flash. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. Flash was a good movie. Not one of the greatest comic book movies of all time, like some people suggested, but I thought it was a good movie. I know it had some bad CGI. I don't give a fuck. It was a good movie. Blue Beetle was a good movie. It wasn't awesome, but it was a good movie, but nobody went to go see them. When you look at like the final 4 or 5 movies of the DCU, including films like Black Adam, Shazam 2, Blue Beetle, Flash, and so on and so forth, like I think only one of them made $400 million. Like everybody gave up. Everybody gave up on the DCEU, I should say. The audience abandoned the entire brand. And so if you're going to come out and introduce a brand new cinematic universe with Superman, listen, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say, it's an exaggeration to say that this is going to be the most important first trailer for a movie this year. I don't think that's an exaggeration. I think it's going to be the most important first trailer for a movie this year. I really do. And so it better be good. And they better be working around the clock to try to make this trailer as absolutely good as they can. And so, yeah, they've got a lot of work to do. And I would say this, that's part of the reason why I think they should wait till February. Because if you wait till Super Bowl, if you wait until February to put this trailer out, right? And that means there's more time for more shots to be finished. Because remember, the movie's in post-production right now. They finished shooting the movie, but they're still working on visual effects and sound and editing. And so if you wait until Super Bowl, you'll have even more completed footage to draw from. You launch it at Super Bowl, you make a big bang, you make a big splash, and it's still 5 months away from the movie. That's a perfect spot. It's a perfect spot. Again, that doesn't look like they're doing. It does look like they're going to put out the first trailer sometime before Christmas. And that's fine. Listen, James Gunn put out the first trailer. This is true. James Gunn put out the first trailer, the little fan teaser for Guardians of the Galaxy, the first Guardians of the Galaxy, only 2 weeks after they started making the movie. Do you guys remember that? It was only 2 weeks after they started shooting, they put out the first little teaser, which was like the Guardians and the Usual Suspects lineup and Star-Lord doing, ooh, remember that? That was their first teaser, like 2 weeks after they started shooting the movie. So, can James Gunn and team and crew and whatever trailer house they're working with come up with like enough good footage of Superman to make a good first trailer after they've completed shooting the whole movie? I'm sure they can. I'm sure they can. But, I mean, there is so much riding on this. There is so much riding on this. You know, a good question being, Yakov is asking in the live chat. I know you said that it won't make $1 billion, but will Superman make more than Black Adam? I think so. If the movie's good, I think it can make more than 400 million, right? I just don't expect the first Superman movie, no matter how good it is, to make like 700 million, 800 million. I don't think, because again, there's just too much work to do to win the audience back. That's going to take time. But can it make more than Black Adam? Yeah. I think if the movie's good, and that's the key part there, that's the key part. If the movie's good, it'll beat Black Adam. It'll make more than 400 million. Of that, I feel pretty comfortable with. And then who knows what the ceiling is. Again, I don't think it's like 700 or 800 million, but it could make 500 million, 600 million. Again, if the movie's really good. It ain't going to sniff $1 billion, but you know, we'll see how it all goes. Question is for you guys. What do you think about this? The reports out there saying, oh, the studio doesn't like the trailer. James Gunn is the studio. James Gunn dropped comment to just clarify, hey, everybody, I am the studio, okay? I'm the one who decides if the thing's good or not. So anyway, whatever you guys think about this, and most importantly, let me ask you guys, when do you think we'll see the first trailer? I'm thinking all signs point that it's going to drop probably before Christmas. I think they should wait until Super Bowl, but I think it'll be before Christmas. When do you guys think it'll drop? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Let's talk a little Sonic the Hedgehog. We got Sonic 3 is coming, everybody. And everybody's excited about Sonic 3. I am excited about Sonic 3. I'm excited about Sonic 3. I think Sonic 3 is going to be fun. I was wonderfully surprised by the first Sonic. The second Sonic did not fall off at all. I find both these movies tremendously entertaining. I mean, not like best movie of the year quality, but super entertaining. It brings a lot of joy to my heart watching the Sonic movies. And we got Sonic 3 coming. I think the trailers have been good. A little bit confusing, but they've been good. Now, for some unknown reason, there have been people around here who have been believing that Sonic the Hedgehog 3 will be $1 billion film. To which I respond, no chance in hell. There is no chance in hell that Sonic 3 is going to be $1 billion film. That is a massive pipe dream of epic proportions. The first movie made $319 million. The second movie went up, but went up by about 20%. It went up to 405. So it went from 319 to 405. If you think it's going to go from 405 to $1 billion, you're smoking some heavy, heavy kush. All right. You are on a different plane. So I just can't believe how many people actually want to debate with me that they think Sonic's going to make. John, you don't understand how popular Sonic is. Yeah, I do. We've had 2 movies already. And it's going up because the movies are really good, but it's not going to make $1 billion. Whatever. I think it can be the biggest of the franchise so far. Like, I think with the second Sonic making, what did we say it was? $405 million. I don't think 600 million is out of the realm of possibility. I think this one can take a significant step up. So I don't think 500, 600, 650. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. I think it can possibly do that. I think it can be the biggest one yet. But you know what? It won't be the biggest one. It won't be the biggest opening weekend. Because right now, Sonic, the projection numbers have come out from Box Office Pro. Sonic the Hedgehog Part 3 is right now projected to be the lowest opening weekend of the trilogy. You see on the chart I got here, Sonic, the first movie, made $58 million in its first weekend, which is very good. Sonic 2 made $72 million on its opening weekend. Again, the first one opened at 58, ended up making $319 million. Sonic 2 opened to $72 million, went on to make $405 million. But right now, the industry is saying, the box office projectors are saying that it looks like right now Sonic 3 is going to make $55 million opening weekend, which, while maybe the lowest of the franchise so far, that's still $55 million is still a respectable number to open to, right? And listen, the number could go up. It could go down. Out of the 120 some odd movies this year, there've been about 3 or 4 where the projections got it wrong. So it's possible. But about 55 million. But lest you worry that means that Sonic 3 isn't going to do well overall, Deadline wants to remind everybody that its biggest business may come a little bit later rather than its opening weekend because it's coming out around Christmas. This is what Deadline said. Note, doesn't matter who wins, just another great moment for all boats rising over the Christmas box office after what is expected to be a record Thanksgiving stretch, beating 2018's $315.6 million 5-day total. In the end, in worrying about Sonic's numbers, it's about that Christmas multiple, which can be as high as 5x to 5.5x for family titles opening before the holiday. Even though these estimates for Sonic 3 is below the previous installments of Sonic the Hedgehog at 58 and Sonic 2 at 72, tracking is hot on this threequel. Audiences don't really head out to the movies until Christmas Day, which falls on a Wednesday this year. Interest among teen girls is equal to teen boys, with 17 to 34 at a high 16% unaided and 51% definite interest. This threequel is big with moms and both girls and boys. Okay, so here's the thing. If Sonic 3 opens, everybody, lower than you thought it was going to open, hell, if it opens to the lowest number out of all the movies so far, and 55 would be the lowest of the 3 movies, don't panic. Don't panic. Because as Deadline is pointing out, hey guys, remember, this is a Christmas season release. All right? The movie's going to open. It may not open as big as you think, but the closer they get to Christmas, that movie's going to have a multiplier. And it's going to grow and be big. And actually, you know what? Let me go back and pull up the first Jumanji, the first Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson Jumanji. So Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle opened in that Christmas season, okay? You know how much Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle made on its opening weekend? Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle on opening weekend only made $36 million, okay? Only made $36 million on its opening weekend. Look how much it made overall. It still almost made $1 billion. Okay? It still almost made $1 billion. It made $962 million because it's that Christmas season thing, right? It's the Christmas season. But not just that, if I remember right, I might be wrong about this. I think Aquaman had the same kind of thing, did it not? Where Aquaman opened on December 7th, so a little bit earlier. But Aquaman, opened to $67 million, right? And it made $1.1 billion. It made $1.1 billion. So, what's our takeaway here? our takeaway is simply that it is conceivable, maybe even likely when you look at the comparable numbers, that Sonic 3 does indeed open to the lowest numbers that they've had in the franchise so far. Absolutely possible. But if that happens, that is nothing to panic over. Because in this Christmas season, as Deadline is pointing out, it will then come into a multiplier. This is assuming the movie's good. And I don't think there's any reason to assume it won't be good. The other two have been absolutely delightful. This movie can still make $600 million, even if it opens to 55. Okay? So, could it open lowest? Absolutely. But it doesn't mean it won't be the biggest film of the franchise yet. And I think we will. I think Sonic 3, provided the movie doesn't suck, and there's no reason to believe it will, but provided the movie doesn't suck, I believe Sonic 3 is going to end up being the biggest film of the franchise overall. In order to do that, it needs to make $406 million. I still see some of you absolutely ludicrous head up your ass people thinking it's going to make $1 billion. Sonic 3 is not making $1 billion. I hope it does. I hope it does. Believe me, I'm cheering for it. I absolutely want it to make $1 billion. But there is zero reason to believe that a movie that went from 319 to 405 is suddenly going to go to $1 billion. It's not going to happen. But I do think it's going to be the biggest one of the franchise yet. I do believe it's going to be the biggest one of the franchise yet. So we'll see how it goes. Guys, question is for you. What do you think about that? The projections are now coming in that Sonic is going to open as the lowest opening weekend for the Sonic franchise. But as Deadline points out, that doesn't mean it's not going to be the biggest film of the franchise overall with the Christmas multiplier coming into play. What do you think about that? Are you excited for Sonic 3? Maybe you haven't seen the other Sonic movies. Maybe you don't care about them. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, I'm going to start taking your live comments and questions you guys have been firing in using the Super Chat feature. Again, the Super Chats are still open. I'll let you know when I'm about to turn them off. But before we do, we're going to take a quick second and pay some bills around here and thank a couple of sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at The Perfect Gene and the great folks making great stuff over at Mando. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, The Perfect Gene. So the colder season is here, and guess what? I am living in the perfect jean. These jeans are super stretchy, soft, and totally trick people into thinking I've got my life together. And I'm telling you this because I actually love them. These are absolutely, no questions asked, my favorite jeans that I have ever owned. And yes, the folks over at The Perfect Jean are paying me to say that, but it's still absolutely true. These are my favorite jeans ever. These jeans have enough stretch to accommodate Thanksgiving dinner and are comfy enough to wear all day watching Sunday football. Plus, even though they feel like sweatpants, they look good enough to be your go-to pants for date night. And listen, the Perfect Jean isn't even just pants. They've revolutionized t-shirts as well. The Perfect Tee has just enough stretch to hide that beer belly while accentuating your arms and chest for that flawless look. My guys, it's finally time to stop crushing your balls in uncomfortable jeans by going to theperfectjean.nyc. Our listeners get 15% off your first order, plus free shipping, free returns, and free exchanges when you use the code CAMPEA at checkout. That's 15% off for new customers at theperfectjean.nyc with the promo code CAMPEA. And after you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support the John Campea Show and tell them we sent you. F your khakis and get the perfect jean. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Mando. Thank goodness it is football season. It's time for tailgates, touchdowns, and Sunday cookouts with the crew. But unfortunately, along with the drinks and the food, sometimes you also bring along your odor. And that is why Mando whole body deodorant should be an absolute tailgate game day essential. And that's why Mando's the MVP. It's clinically proven 72-hour odor control, so it's perfect for long days at the game or at the bar. I'm loving the Clover Wood scent, but they've got options like bourbon leather, Mount Fuji, Pro Sport, and even unscented if you prefer to go stealth mode. I like to use it after the shower, before the gym, or even important meetings. It's that reliable. And right now, Mando's got a killer deal. New customers get $5 off their best-selling starter pack with my exclusive code CAMPEA. That's over 40% off. Just go to shopmando, that's shopmando.com, and use the code CAMPEA. Seriously, guys, if you want a deodorant that's aluminum aluminum free, baking soda free, and just works better than anything else you've tried. It's time to make the switch to Mando. So don't wait. Control body odor anywhere with Mando. Head over to shopmando.com and use the code Campea and get $5 off your starter pack. Trust me, you're going to love it. That's at shopmando.com. Go and check it out now. And thank you to our friends at The Perfect Gene and Mando for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's get on to your live questions you've been sending in via the Super Chat feature here, shall we? We're going to start off here with, that's not what this is supposed to look like at all. That's not what it's supposed to look like either. Give me a second. This is what happens when you do these things alone, guys. Okay. If I did that, that makes it worse. And wow, guys, sorry about this. I had all this set up and then it went completely bonkers. And I'm going to try to get this all set up properly. Okay, let's go with this. The Ninja Boy writes, I really hope this isn't true, talking about Sonic being the lowest opening. I think it very well could be true. It very well could be the lowest opening because of when it's opening. But again, unlike all other 350 days of the year, when the opening weekend is very, very telling about what the overall box office is probably going to be, at the Christmas window, it's different. Just because it opens not as big as you think it should doesn't mean it's not going to go on and enjoy that big Christmas bounce, right? So I absolutely believe Sonic could open to be the lowest of the opening of the three films, but I also absolutely believe it's going to end up being the biggest of the three movies. So we'll see how that all kind of comes about. All right. Next up, we got, again, the Ninja Boy, right? So I'm so excited. I'm hoping for Sonic 4. I think we'll get Sonic 4. I don't think there's any question about that. I mean, at minimum, I think Sonic 3 is going to make 500 million, which will be the biggest of the franchise. Again, I think 600, 650 is totally within the realm of possibility. And that will absolutely guarantee that we'll get a Sonic 4. I have very, very little doubt we're going to get a Sonic 4. All right, next up, we got Christopher Brickner who writes, in Sonic 3, I think Eggman joins his grandpa, thinking they will rule the world. Learning Geralt, I guess this is his grandpa, will destroy the world. Eggman then joins Sonic. Yeah, I mean, that's what I kind of brought up on the show the other day. Because the first trailer made it look like Eggman and Sonic were going to join forces. And then the second trailer comes out and it looks like, no, they're teamed up with Shadow. And so what I said on the John Campea Show the other day was, unless what happens here is that the true big bad guy is Papa, it's his dad, is Eggman's dad, that ends up being the true villain. And then Eggman breaks off from him and joins Team Shadow or Team Sonic, and then they stop him together. That's what I'm guessing is probably going to happen, but who knows? They might have some twists and turns available for us in here. All right. PR writes, 10 years ago today, Force Awakens first trailer dropped. Woo, man. I remember that day. I remember that day. Everybody was so excited about the trailer coming out. And that's when you got your first look at the real dark side of the Star Wars fandom, when it's like, and like people will deny it now, but I remember being on those forums and reading the messages. Like I remember, they'll deny it now. There are people out there who try to rewrite history, but I remember, I read all of it that day, and I'm sure many of you do too. Like, was there a black stormtrooper and blah, blah. I mean, and that kind of became the driving narrative for that. And it was the first time that had happened kind of surrounding a Star Wars movie. But yeah, that was 10 years ago today that happened. It was like, whoo, crazy. That was 10 years ago. All right, next up. The Batman sends in a $100 super chat. Thank you, Batman, so much for supporting us on that level, man. That is incredibly generous of you, dude. Happy Thanksgiving. And he writes, happy Thanksgiving to everyone. So much to be thankful for this year. I'm thankful for the Penguin series being as good as it was, and I'm also thankful for no Acolyte season 2. Well, first of all, let's talk about the Penguin series for a second. I mean, I expected, I've said this 100 times already, I expected the Penguin series to be good because of how good that character was done in the Batman movie. I wasn't expecting how good. Like, legitimately competing for best show of the year kind of stuff. I wasn't ready for that. It ended up being such a complete victory. It was so good, so great. Really happy for it. Let me push back on you a little bit though on that Acolyte comment though. Why should you care if they like if you're like me who did not like the Acolyte at all, right? Like not at all. Why would you care if they made a second season? No, nobody's making me watch it. Like if they announced tomorrow they're going to make a season 2 of The Acolyte, I'd be okay, cool. Because there are some people out there that like The Acolyte. Not me, but there are some people out there that liked it. Great. Those people are going to get something that they enjoy. And I'm happy for them. But I don't have to watch it. So I let me push back a little bit on that and saying, listen, a healthy fandom is a fandom that will celebrate other people getting things that they like, even if it's something that you don't like. So, hey, listen, if they want to make a Acolyte season 2, and maybe they can even make it better. I mean, it's hard to make it worse. And there are people out there who did like, remember, there's like a big online petition to save the Acolyte. There were people who liked it. And if Disney announced tomorrow that they were going to give those fans something that they're asking for and something that they want, I got no problem with that. I'm not interested in it. I'm not going to watch it. But anyway, yeah, there's that. But yes, the Penguin, absolute complete victory. Can't believe how good it was. So again, the Batman, thank you so much for that and supporting us on that level. It's incredibly generous of you. And everybody who watches the show, thanks you for supporting the show on that level, man. I really appreciate it. All right. Next up. Just started watching a show called Castle, expecting a fun journey. Now, are you talking about the Nathan Fillion show Castle, or are you talking about, did you just shorten it up, and are you talking about Man in the High Castle? I'm going to assume you're talking about Castle, the Nathan Fillion show. I honestly, I've only ever known one person who watched Castle. Well, two people, but there were a couple. My former assistant, and then she was like the lead administrator over at Collider, and Wendy Lee Zaney and her husband. By the way, they have a YouTube channel called The Movie Couple. It's really good. You should go check it out sometime. Tell them I sent you. But yeah, they're a great couple. They have a really good channel called The Movie Couple. Go check it out. But anyway, they were literally the only people I knew who watched that show. I'm a big Nathan Fillion fan, but I've never watched a single episode. Never saw a single episode. But they raved about it. They always raved about it. And you know what? Here's the funny thing. That show for Nathan Fillion was way more successful than Firefly was. Firefly is the most iconic show Nathan Fillion's done, but Castle was way more successful than Firefly was. It's really weird. I've never seen it. All right. Next up, we got King Daddy Goat who writes, "Hey, John, is there a difference for Canadian Thanksgiving compared to American? Thanks for all you do, John. Much love and happy Thanksgiving." You know, here's the thing. In Canada, like we have Thanksgiving, real Thanksgiving in October, right? And on the surface, it's the same thing. It's turkey and stuffing and gravy and family getting together and all that kind of stuff, right? But here's the part that really surprised me when I moved down to the States. It is a much more important holiday in the States than it is in Canada. Like in Canada, it's a nice little holiday. It's a nice little holiday, but really nothing more. Like Christmas is the holiday by miles, right? Like Remembrance Day is even considered probably more important than Thanksgiving is in Canada. But when I came down to the States, holy crap. It like for some people, I think a good number of people in the States, like Thanksgiving is bigger than Christmas. Like it's the main holiday down here. So on the surface, it's very similar. Family get-togethers, turkey, stuffing, all that kind of stuff. But in the States, they take Thanksgiving way more seriously than we in Canada do. So yeah, that's kind of the big difference, really. It's just about which one thinks it's more important. Canada, we don't think it's that important of a holiday. In the United States, it's a major, major, major holiday. All right. Next up, Karoon writes, I just had a random thought about the last Ronin movie from Paramount. Are they still making that, or might it be scrapped, you think? Thank you. Okay, so the last Ronin, for those of you who don't know, is kind of a what if Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles story. It's very dark. It's very adult. It's set sometime in the future where all the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles except one have been killed. And that one last remaining one, and I can't remember which one it is. I think it's not Michelangelo. It's not, which one is it that survived that's alive at the end? Because it's not I know it's not Michelangelo, but that's the only one I know it's not. But anyway, Raphael. Raphael's the last surviving Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. And they go on this vengeance spree, this honor vengeance spree. Now, other people saying it is Michelangelo. I thought it wasn't. Anyway, irrelevant. The only important thing you need to know is that there's one surviving turtle who goes on this very dark spree of vengeance, right? Of honor and vengeance. Anyway, Paramount announced that they were going to be making a movie version of it, which got a lot of people excited. As far as I know, they're still planning on making it. But since that announcement, you might have heard Paramount has gone through an acquisition. It's been acquired, it's been bought. And whether or not some of those projects that had been greenlight previously, whether or not some of those get canceled, it is a possibility. Again, I don't know if they are or not, but it's definitely a possibility that it gets canceled. But as far as I know right now, it's still alive. So we'll see how that goes. All right. Joey writes, "Hey, John, I'm Latino and was adopted into a Filipino family. I love my mom's lumpia, pancit, and pork adobo. What's your favorite Filipino food? Happy Thanksgiving." You know, it's funny because like one of Joe Coy's, who's one of my favorite comedians, one of Joe Coy's funniest bits is about how, you know, like Latino, like Mexican and Filipino heritage is so similar. Their language is often similar. Their names are so similar. He even tells that joke. My mom can't even tell us apart. My mom went up to this Mexican dude and said, "Filipino? Mexican." It's like all this, it's like one of his best bits. I love it. But, and a lot of Filipinos, I've learned this since being married to a Filipino, like have like very traditional Latino names and stuff like that. Anyway, my favorite, God, I love lumpia. I will admit there's not a lot of Filipino cuisine that I like, but two things. Lumpia and chicken and pork adobo. When chicken or pork adobo is done right, it is to die for, especially if you get a good pork adobo with like a garlic rice. That's some good stuff right there. That's some very good stuff. All right. Thanks for that, Joey. Next up. Let's see. Jeremy King writes, "John, thanks for giving us lonely cinephiles a place to hang out on Thanksgiving." Well, thank you for giving me a place to hang out on Thanksgiving, man. I hope you have a good one. Thanks for that, dude. All right. Devin Lida writes, "Finally had a chance to watch We Live in Time and Arona. No metal horse thrusting in We Live in Time by Florence, but it was very moving. Didn't like the outcome for Arona, though." You know what? Arona's still a film I haven't had a chance to watch. One of our viewers wrote in, because it just never opened here, and I didn't want to drive an hour and 15 minutes to go watch it, even though I've been dying to see it, and I've heard it's one of the best films of the year. Then one of our viewers wrote in and said, "Oh, I saw it listed at your local theater." And then I went and looked, and I didn't see it. Like, so really, did I miss it? And anyway, that's one I've been really, really excited about. It looks like, on its surface, at least through its marketing, it looks like a more modern, contemporary, harder edge, grittier, Pretty Woman in some ways, but just not a rom-com sort of thing. Anyway, I'm dying to see it. I can't wait to watch it. I've been hearing a lot of people talk about it. Thanks for reminding me about it, Devin. I appreciate that, man. All right, next up. We got Mike's Movie Madness, who writes, "Tried to get tickets for Wicked for me and my mom, completely sold out today and tomorrow's for showings across the board. This movie is hitting 1 billion in a week or two." I don't think it's going to hit 1 billion in a week or two, because remember, the one thing that is going to be a drag on keeping Wicked from getting to 1 billion, I'm not saying it won't get to 1 billion, but is the fact that while it is super massive here, it's not as popular in a lot of the rest of the world. Like, it's going to be super popular here, super popular in the UK. It's going to be that kind of stuff. but it's not going to have the kind of big international numbers as some will. So I don't know that it's going to hit 1 billion in a week or two, but it's massive here and it's going to do very, very, very well. And I've had the same thing. Anne has been wanting to go watch it again, and we've been having troubles finding screenings for it. All right, let's see. Next up, Dane writes, I hope Cap 4 is good just to avoid more of those rage bait videos on YouTube. Plus, I love Captain America. Yeah, I mean, Sam isn't my Captain America. Like, to me, Steve Rogers is Captain America, is Steve Rogers is Captain America is Steve Rogers. That's my philosophy on that. And I said that going into when it was looking like they were getting ready to transition Chris Evans out. I said, look, I love Bucky and I love Sam, but neither of those guys are Captain America. Only Steve is Captain America. I don't like this passing the mantle thing. Steve Rogers is Captain America. That's it. That being said, I really like Bucky and I really like Sam. And I said, so if they do kind of do that, and there is precedent in the comic books for it, I'll definitely get on board with it and I'll definitely give it a shot because I do like those characters very much. So they went the direction with Sam. Sam's the new Captain America. I think they did a nice job in Falcon and the Winter Soldier of making that transition of him into being the new mantle. He's not Captain America, but he is the mantle bearer of Captain America right now. And I think they did a good job with it. And I'm looking forward to it. I think the trailers have been really good. I'm excited for it, and here's hoping that it works. I just hope it's not another Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. Dear heavens. All right. Listen, next up, we've got Danny, who writes, the ballroom scene in Wicked is the most beautiful scene. Man, I don't know. I think that scene when they go to Oz is the most beautiful scene. I mean, if you're talking about by ballroom scene, you mean the scene where Elphaba does the dance, that was beautiful. But if you're talking visually beautiful, man, when they get to Oz, that was something really special to look at. Like, that looked just beautiful. All right. Danny Sanchez also writes again. You couldn't save a relationship with a stripper is the best burn of 2024. That Hugh monologue was epic and my favorite fight scene in Deadpool 3. You couldn't even save your relationship with a stripper. That was listen, Deadpool and Wolverine. I mean, it's one of those movies where I was on my 4th screening of it and still catching lines I hadn't caught before. Like it was just one of those movies, right? Like it's so packed with laughs and great one-liners and great burns, and the action was fantastic and fabulous. And God, one of my favorite movies. I don't think it's going to be nominated for Best Picture or anything like that, but one of my absolute favorite movie-going experiences of the year. All right. AV Tech Man writes, why isn't the first Lethal Weapon considered a Christmas movie like the first Die Hard? Lethal Weapon even came out a year earlier. Well, first of all, let's be clear. Die Hard is not a Christmas movie. I mean, if you needed any more thing, go to Bruce Willis. Go to Detective McClane himself, who definitively ended the argument when Bruce Willis declared it is not a Christmas movie. And it's not. It's not a Christmas movie. Now, that doesn't mean that it can't be a movie that's a part of your Christmas tradition if you want, but it's not a Christmas movie. And the reason I think a lot of people more favor and talk about Die Hard is just that overall it's considered a much more classic movie than Lethal Weapon. I love Lethal Weapon, but Die Hard is definitely considered the more classic of the movies, I think. But yes, neither is a Christmas movie. All right, next up. We got Yang, who writes, just want to tell you and your family happy Thanksgiving. I love you and the crew and wishing you guys a happy holiday. Well, thank you so much, Yang. I appreciate that. Listen, and sent in like a $20 super chat to send in well wishes. Dude, thank you so much for your support. And it's always nice when somebody just wants to write in to say something supportive. I really appreciate that very, very much. And may you and your family have a wonderful Thanksgiving wherever you are as well on this wonderful day. So thanks again for that, Yang. Really appreciate that, dude. All right, next up. David Cushmore writes, happy Thanksgiving to you. Are you going to eat a lot of turkey? Honestly, probably not. I always have some turkey, right? I'm more of a fan of the dark meat than the white meat. Just because I don't like it as dry. I have some turkey, but I usually have a little bit of turkey with some stuffing, and then I dive into the other stuff. Like if there's a ham or my mom made the best stuffing. Like my mom's stuffing was so good. I would often ask her just through the year to make a big thing of stuffing. And I'm not kidding. And she put in this big ceramic bowl and cover it with saran wrap. And then I would spend the next week just going to the fridge 3 or 4 times a day, open up the saran wrap, scooping out chunks of stuffing, just eating it up. I loved it. So yeah, I will have some turkey. I will just probably fill myself up on a few other things. All right. Next up, we've got O'Bean who writes, much as I love Shadow, Sonic's not making $1 billion. Oh, no. It's absolutely ludicrous to believe it's going to make anywhere near $1 billion. There's absolutely nothing to base that on. If there was $1 billion worth of people waiting to see Sonic, why did the first one make 319 and why did the second one make 405? Do you think there's like all these Sonic fans who have just been waiting for a few years? It's like, yeah, I'm a Sonic fan, but I'm not going to go see it unless Shadow's in it. Oh, Shadow's in it? Now I'll go see it. Like, really? So I do think it's going to be the biggest of the movies so far. It's going to be the biggest of the 3 movies. But it's going to follow the trajectory, right? It went from 319 to 405. I think it's going to go from 405 to 520, 540, 550. Hell, even as high as 650. But yes, it's like... So really, all these people stayed home from watching the first 2 Sonic movies because, no, I'm not going to go see Sonic unless Shadow's in it. Really? You think there's really all those people like just don't care about Sonic and just stayed home and didn't go see it. But now that Shadow's in it, now they'll come see it. There's just nothing to back that up with. There's nothing to back it up with. Anyway. All right. Let's see. Let me refresh here. Now, just so you know, guys, I'm going to turn off super chats now because I'm running out of time and there's still a ton of questions to come in. So I am going to switch off super chats right now. And if you had one to get in, hopefully you got yours in under the wire. So let me get back over to your questions here. I'm going to just reset the questions so we can get to all the remaining ones. All right, so we are going to pick things up with, I know we still got a lot to go. Okay. We're going to pick things up with who? Pop Screen. And Pop Screen writes, thoughts on Sonic tracking to beat Mufasa also. With the first 2 Sonics having 3-day openings, does this having a traditional weekend change things? No. An opening weekend is always an opening weekend. If you have a long weekend, doesn't matter. The opening weekend number is always just the opening weekend number. So no, that's fine. And it's considered the 3-day weekend anyway, right? Friday, Saturday, Sunday is considered the 3-day opening weekend. So that's fine. As far as the Mufasa things go, so right now it's the trajectory and the projections are saying that Sonic 3 is going to open to 55 million and Mufasa is going to open to 50. Mufasa is still going to make more money overall. I believe. I mean, look, unless it sucks. If it sucks, it won't. But I think all other things being equal, Mufasa will still make more money. But here's the thing, like Sonic 3 should make more money opening weekend. I was talking to some people in the live chat before the show started. Sonic 3 is the 3rd chapter of an ongoing series. Mufasa is a prequel to a remake. Sonic 3 is the 3rd chapter of an ongoing franchise. Mufasa is a prequel to a remake. Sonic should make more opening weekend, but which one will make more long run over the holiday season? I still think Mufasa is going to make more money. I mean, I don't know that for a fact. I'm just guessing. I'm just a fan, just guessing. But yeah, everybody underestimated how much money that Lion King CGI animated one would do. Everybody underestimated that. I think made over $1 billion. And look, I've said from day one, Mufasa is not going to make $1 billion, but it's going to make a lot of money, just like Sonic will. And so I think at the end of the day, listen, Sonic and Mufasa are both going to be just fine. It doesn't matter what they open with. I know there's some people got all concerned and saw, oh no, Sonic's only going to open to 55 million. Don't worry about it. It's going to do just fine. Even if the opening weekend isn't as big as you thought maybe it would be, it's going to do just fine. Both those movies are going to make a lot of money for the theaters. They're going to make a lot of money for the theaters. All right. Let's see. Next up, we've got Chris Miner writes, better dual comedic performances in the same movie. Mike Myers in the Austin Powers movies or Eddie Murphy in Coming to America? Ooh. That's a good question. Because Eddie Murphy in that first Coming to America movie, let's not talk about the second one. The second one was trash. The first one's all-time classic. So good. You know, in Austin Powers as Dr. Evil and Austin Powers, it's great. But you know what my favorite Mike Myers dual roles comedic performance is? It isn't in any of the Austin Powers movies. It's in this little comedy that he did that nobody ever talks about called So I Married an Axe Murderer. No one ever talks about this movie. It is fucking hilarious. And in So I Married an Axe Murderer, Mike Myers plays himself and his own dad. Oh, you're going to eat my chicken. Oh, it is one of the funniest things I've ever seen in a movie. Like one of the absolute funniest things. Hid, move, no. Look at that gigantic cranium. It's like, what's it called? What did he call it? Like a grape on a toothpick or something like that. It's got a wee gigantic head. It's Piper down. It is absolutely hilarious. If you haven't seen So I Married an Axe Murderer, I highly, highly, highly recommend you check it out. I mean, all due respect to what he did in Austin Powers, because I love the Austin Powers movies, and Eddie Murphy with his stuff in Coming to America, which is all-time classic. I actually think it would be Mike Myers in So I Married an Axe Murderer. Heed, move. It's so good. All right. Next up, Christopher Brickner writes, I can't be the only one who saw the Captain America 4 trailer and jokingly thought Harrison Ford 2024. No, I'm sure he didn't. And hey, listen, Air Force One, he's played the president before. Get off my damn plane. And by the way, just as your daily reminder, if you guys aren't watching Shrinking with Jason Segel and Harrison Ford, you are not living life to the fullest. Make sure you watch Harrison Ford in that. All right. Thanks for that, Christopher. Next up, Andy writes, one of two. I saw 6 movies that came out this month, and 3 of them, Heretic, A Real Pain, and Juror Number 2. I did not see A Real Pain. That's the guy who played Lex. Why am I freezing on Lex Eisenberg? Yeah, Eisenberg and one of the McCulkins, I think. Anyway, I didn't have a chance to see that one. Were original films. I got 1 month left to go. I started doing this because you often mentioned how many original films there are, and I believed you, so I wanted to test your theory. And I'm glad you did, Andy, and I love it when you send in those messages, because whenever there's somebody in a movie discussion who wants to make it sound like they're smart or make it sound like they're artsy, that's me tossing my hair back. Artsy. Inevitably will say one of the dumbest things ever, and it's always, Hollywood doesn't make original films anymore. They don't do anything new. Hollywood doesn't do anything original anymore. And it's like, okay, but you are just statistically, factually wrong. Just absolutely wrong. So King Daddy Goes saying, grow your hair out, John. We need John Campea. Guys, I haven't ever showed pictures of it, but for a lot of my years, growing up into like my early 20s, maybe just before my 20s, my hair was like down to here. I know it's hard for you guys to picture, but my hair was like, and I would tie it back into a ponytail thinking I was freaking Bono, play my guitar with my hair, swaying as I'm playing my guitar and I'm doing concerts or whatever. And I had the hair, guys. I had the long, it was never a mullet. It was never a mullet, but it was like super long hair. And, yeah, you guys would be shocked if you saw some of those pictures. Anyway, what were we talking about? Oh yes, original films. But like we go through this all the time and I say, okay, let's do this exercise again. We bring up the release schedule. Original, sequel, original, remake, original, sequel, original, sequel, original, sequel, original. Like And people think I'm just throwing around a phrase. No, it's an actual factual truth. There is more original film made today than in any other time in movie history. It's also true that there is more sequels and franchise films being made than any other time in history. That is also true. But the statistical fact is there's never been more purely original movies than are made today. Y'all just don't go see them. That's what I say to them when they say, Hollywood doesn't make original films anymore. I say, no, they're there. Look, and I bring up the release calendar. There. All original films. You just didn't go see them. So I get it. Like you put a fly on a white wedding cake and you ask somebody, what do you see? And even though the wedding cake's this big and the fly is this big, people are going to say, I see a fly. I get that. We talk more about franchise films. We talk more usually in our circles about sequels and whatever, because they're IPs we all commonly know. But the reality is there's a lot of original film. And I'm glad that you put those messages in, Andy, to remind everybody about it. So thank you for that. All right. Let's see. Cupcake Bliss writes, hey, John, will you be watching any football games this weekend? Oh, hell yes. I'm missing the Detroit game right now. That's a painful thing for me right now. I'm missing that Detroit-Chicago game right now. Anyway, if so, who are you going for? Sorry for none of the movie questions. I mean, listen, other than hockey, where I am a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, I will have been and will be a Toronto Maple Leafs bleed blue and white fan my whole life. When it comes to sports, and I'm a huge sports fan, I do not follow any corporation. I don't follow a corporation. Like the Chicago Bears are a corporation. They are. They're a sports team, but they're also a corporation. The Los Angeles Lakers are a corporation. The Boston Celtics are a corporation. The New England Patriots are a corporation. I don't follow corporations. I follow teams. And by that, I mean, like when I was just a little kid growing up and getting into sports and getting into basketball, I loved the Boston Celtics. But I didn't love the brand. I didn't love the logo. I loved that team. Larry Bird, Robert Parrish, Kevin McHale, Dennis Johnson. That was the Danny Ainge. I loved that team. And when the Boston Celtics were no longer that team, I kind of stopped following the Boston Celtics. And it's true with me in all sports, except for in hockey. I have one loyalty to one team forever, and that's Toronto Maple Leafs. That's the one brand that I'll follow forever. But in every other sport, I follow teams, and then teams evolve, and suddenly that team isn't really the team anymore, and so maybe I'll stop following that team. But, back again, when I was a little kid growing up and watching football, the Buffalo Bills, right? Jim Kelly, I would watch that team. And then when that team wasn't that team anymore, then eventually I kind of went away from it. The New England Patriots. I mean, I followed them for like 20 years. I followed the New England Patriots ever since Coach Parcells. When Coach Parcells went to New England, I started following that team. And then, Brady became the quarterback. And I was a fan of that team for like 20 years. But like, today, I mean, I still follow them and I still like them, but I look and that's not the team anymore. There's nobody there anymore. That's not the same team. Everybody who was there when I followed them is gone. So, and I find that a lot of sports fans are only loyal to brands, and who I cheer for, I'll always cheer for the home team. Right? Like when I go to a Rams game, I'm going to cheer for the Rams. When I go to a Laker game, I'm going to cheer for the Lakers. If I go to a Clippers game, because they're in LA, I'm going to cheer for them. If I go to an LAFC game, I'll cheer for LAFC. If I go to a baseball game, I'll cheer for the Dodgers. The home team, I'll cheer for the home team. But who I cheer for will change every 3 or 4 years because the teams change. So yeah, anyway, that's just me right now. Right now, I'm really big on Buffalo because they've always had a special place in my heart ever since I was a kid. I'm really fascinated following Detroit. I've been following Detroit for about 3 years now. And I really like where Pittsburgh's at right now. I really like where the Steelers are at right now. But anyway, that's just me. All right. Next up. Perfect Image writes, hey, John, question. Why Marvel not saying The Gifted is canon to X-Men Future Past. It's there because of Blink. Happy Turkey Day. Because listen, I really liked Gifted. For those of you who don't remember, that was kind of like the X-Men adjacent. That was like an Elseworlds kind of thing. It was a really good show, though. I liked it. I thought it was quite good. Anyway. It was never intended to be a part of the X-Men canon. It was never intended to be a part of the X-Men canon. It was always made as an Elseworlds kind of thing. Much like Matt Reeves's Batman was never meant to be a part of the DCEU canon, nor is it meant to be a part of the new James Gunn DCU canon. It's a totally separate thing. It was always intended to be something completely different. So yeah, imagine a world where the X-Men were and now this story's happening, but it's not the world that the X-Men movies happened in, right? It was always conceived as a totally different thing. All right. Thanks for the question, Perfect Image. Next up, we got Simon Section, who sends in a $20 super chat. Thank you, Simon, for supporting us on that level, man. And Simon writes, "Hey, John, happy American Thanksgiving. I remember seeing your reaction 10 years to The Force Awakens. And I remember your vocal response was, 'We ain't found shit.' I thought the same thing to Mel Brooks's 'Beat You to It.'" So what he's talking about, there's this, first of all, Spaceballs is one of my favorite comedies of all time. And there's this iconic scene where they're like pulling a pick through the sand. It's like comb the desert. And they're doing that. If you found anything, we ain't found shit. And so like when that first trailer came out and you see Finn in the desert, my very first thought, and apparently a lot of people went to that iconic scene in Mel Brooks's Spaceballs, which to this day, I don't get, like comedies, all movies age, right? Like all movies age. Comedies particularly age, right? Because humor changes so much over the years. But Spaceballs for me never loses an ounce of its potency. Never loses an ounce of its potency. It's so good. Yeah, it's fantastic. All right. Thanks for that, Simon. And again, thank you for sending in a tip that big, man. We really appreciate it. All right. The Ninja Boy writes, when do you think the DCU Batman will come out? No idea. No idea. I mean, all I know is that it's going to be after Superman. It's probably going to be after Supergirl as well, because they're getting ready for production on Supergirl. My guess, late 2026. That's my guess. I mean, they've already got the director, they got the screenwriter, all that kind of stuff. So my guess is, and this is just a guess, my guess is they're going to go into production on that movie sometime in probably April or May. Again, this is no insider information, I'm just guessing, but sometime April or May. And so we'll probably get some announcements in February or March about casting. They'll go into production April or May, and then probably sometime late 2026, maybe early 2027. But again, that's just me as a fan purely speculating, but that's what my guess would be right now. I'm very excited for it though. All right. Christopher Brickner writes, Geralt alive in Sonic 3 is a change from the games where he's long dead. That's a fine change as long as he still makes the same role in the games as Shadow's maker. None of that is important. Sorry, none of that is important. Like, when you're adapting a movie, you're making a new thing, right? It's the same reason why, like, listen, a lot of people believe Captain America Civil War is the greatest comic book movie of all time. I don't. But it's definitely in the conversation. I think most people would agree it's one of the best comic book movies ever made, right? It is so nothing like Civil War in the comic books. They take the basic principle of Civil War, well, good guys fighting each other. But other than that, almost nothing is similar. Yeah, Iron Man's on one side and Captain America's on the other, but it is such a radically different thing than the comic book story is. To me, one of the other greatest comic book movies ever made is X-Men Days of Future Past. I think that's one of the best comic book movies ever. Maybe top 5. Maybe top 5. Maybe 6, 7, whatever. But it's up there. Nothing like the comics. I mean, the basic principle of it is kind of taken and brought over. Other than that, it's a completely different thing, right? This, I got to tell you, Christopher, and if you've watched me for a long time, Christopher, so you know how I feel about this, right? Like the notion that if you're making it, it's got to follow the original source material in order for it to be good. I reject that notion. I don't agree with that at all. And I think there is example after example after example after example of things that depart from the source material and end up being some of the greatest stuff we've ever had. Hell, even Last of Us took some pretty big liberties. Like, they also followed a lot of the main story tenets of the game, but they also took some pretty major liberties, and it worked out great. So I don't think, like, what they need to do with Eggman's dad is just make it good. And you can make it good following the game, or you can make it good not following the game. As long as they make it good, I think they'll be okay. Either way, Christopher, I'm very excited to see the movie, and I know you are too. And let's just hope it ends up being as good as we hope it is. All right, thanks for that, Christopher. Appreciate that, man. Next up, CR writes, do you ever watch a horror movie and feel a sense of relief when the film cuts and it's daytime again? No better feeling. You know what? There was one time, I'm trying to remember which movie it was, but I remember it was in Burbank, back when Ann and I lived in Burbank. And I went to the AMC Burbank 16 for a matinee of a horror movie, and I cannot now remember for the life of me which one it was. What? It might have been Lights Out. It might have been Lights Out. Or maybe it was the one with Stephen Lang where you got to stay quiet. Anyway, I remember watching that movie. It was a pretty intense movie, right? And I don't get spooked in movies or anything like in horror movies, like very, very, very rarely, even if I like them a lot. But I remember it was a tense one. And I remember coming out. Oh, and thank you, Lewis. The name of that Stephen Lang movie was Don't Breathe. Thank you. I came out and it was still daylight out. And I just remember feeling lighter. I don't know why. I can't explain it. But yeah, I've had that experience, man. I just exact experience like that. All right. Next up, we got Dwayne who writes, hey, John, any info on the dog you found, Dune? Is she a new permanent Campea member? No. Or has she found a home? All right. I'm so glad you asked. For those of you who don't know, I'm going to see if I can pull up a picture of her here. Give me 1 second. So for those of you who don't know, Ann and I, we often come across stray dogs and stuff like that, and we'll bring them in and take care of them until we can find where their owners are. Well, we came across, Ann called me one night because she had come across a dog limping along on the street, and she had no collar, clearly young, and but she said the dog was bigger. Can I come out? So I got in my car, drove down to where she was following the dog, and I got out, got her to come over to me. She was clearly abandoned. There was no collar, no chip. There was no indication on her that she'd ever been with an owner or that she had been with an owner for a while. And she was very sweet. When she came over to me, I started to pet her. She instantly started to cry. So she was scared to jump into the car. So I picked her up and put her in the car, which maybe wasn't the smartest thing on my point because I didn't know if the dog would bite me or anything like that. But I've grown up with dogs my whole life. I had a pretty good sense that this dog's temperament was very gentle. I picked her up, put her in the car, and we took her home. And we happened to be watching Dune Prophecy. So we said, let's call her Dune. So we called her Dune. So that was about 2 weeks ago. We have been on the journey of, we took her to get fully groomed. We took her to get all of her vaccinations. And just 2 days ago, we took her in to get spayed. So she's walking around with the big donut on her head right now, but we took her in to get spayed. And now she's got to recover for a couple of weeks. And she is the most wonderful, sweet, adorable, big dog. She's a big baby. Whenever we're petting our other dog, Shadow, she rushes in and wants to get her head in there too. Here's the other thing about her. Whenever you come up to her, her first instinct is to roll over onto her back so you can rub her belly. And when you rub her belly, she cries. She cries, which breaks my heart because this is a dog that's never had love. So she literally cries when you rub her belly. We took her into the vet. The vet confirmed something we suspected. She'd been hit by a car pretty badly. Her hip is out and healed, like her hip completely fractured and then healed in the wrong place. So she can trot. Like when we're out for a walk, she'll get up to a trot, but the vet said she'll never full out run again. And she might develop arthritis later down the road, but so that made Anne cry. And my wife just started crying when she started hearing all that. But she's a wonderful dog. So, but here's the good news. We already have no less than 4 people who've expressed to us that they want her. So we're going to wait till she fully heals from her spay operation. And, I mean, we think we know who she's going to go to. I don't want to say because you know them and I don't want to say in case they don't want that to be public right now, but we think we know where she's going to go. And she's got like all 4 people who have expressed that they want her or would be wonderful homes for her. So yes, she's not going to become a permanent member of the Campea family because we have a dog. We're not looking to add another one right now, but it sounds like little Dune's future is very good. So I'm so glad you asked about that. I love talking about Dune. She's such a wonderful little dog. And yeah, we're excited to find a new home for her. All right. Next up, we've got... That was Dwayne. Thank you for that, Dwayne. Yuri writes, any news for Pride 2, hoping for a Christmas miracle? For those of you who may not know, I did write a book called The Pride. Hold on a second. Oops. Let me see if I can pull it up here. There it is. The Pride. By John Campea, a little novel I did. Look at this. It's got 4 stars. Thank you, guys. I haven't looked in on it in a while. It's got 4 stars. Thank you. So I wrote a novel. Kind of the same reason that I made a movies because I just wanted to do it. You know, everybody talks about wanting to write a book. So I decided, well, instead of just talking about it, I'm just going to sit down and write a book. So I wrote a novel called The Pride, and I'm very excited about it. And listen, I'll be honest with you. I would love to write another one. The problem is writing the first one took me like 4 years, and because I'm not a novelist, so it took me like 4 years. So I think once I retire, I will. I think then I might look at writing another book. I don't think it'll be the Pride 2. Pride 2, the Pridening, says Van Jexer. I don't think it'll be Pride 2, but I do have several ideas for another book I'd like to write. But yeah, we'll see what happens when I get around to that. So thank you for asking, man. I really appreciate that. All right. Next up, Drew H. writes, I had to watch the Andrew Garfield movie Never Let Me Go for a film class. Loved it, but I could never watch it again. Yeah, I agree. It's so depressing. Have you seen it? Yes. Well, let me just... I'm pretty sure it's the movie I'm thinking of. Hold on a second. Because sometimes I get it confused with the one that Hayden Christensen did. No, Never Let Me Go. The 210. Yeah. Did. Yes. Sad, depressing. There's another one that I often confuse it with, and I don't know why, that Hayden Christensen did, where Hayden Christensen plays, and Rosario Dawson was in it. I can't remember the name of it now, but it's one where he's a guy who goes in for open heart surgery, but he experiences this very rare phenomenon that does happen once in a million, where even though he was under anesthesia, he was actually still awake. Like if you looked at him, you'd think he was completely asleep, but he was actually still aware. Like he was still awake, just with his eyes closed, couldn't move, couldn't talk, whatever. So he's experiencing the effects of anesthesia. Oh, and Kane the actual name of the movie was Awake, right? He's actually, but he was actually aware. So like as they're opening up his ribs, he could actually feel it. It was like, ah, oh, that freaks the hell out of me. That to me is like a nightmare. Anyway, the official Newbies writes and sends in a $20 super chat. Thank you, man. I appreciate that very much. The official Newbies writes, This nobody YouTuber has been one of the reasons that has gotten me through these last few months. Ray has been a hilarious addition to the show, and I'm going to genuinely miss you guys when you do finally retire. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much for that, man. I appreciate that. And listen, sometimes I get people write in and like, why is Ray there? He hardly knows anything about movies. Well, because Ray's job on my show is not as a commentator. Ray's primary job on my show is my graphics and post-production. That's what he does. But I also find Ray is a great representative of the average person out there. You know, me or Chris might give our opinion as somebody who like watches movies for a living, but Ray doesn't do that. So getting Ray is honestly, besides the fact that he's my brother-in-law, Ray is legitimately one of the funniest guys I've ever known. He's not always appropriately the funniest guy I've ever known, but he is one of the funniest guys I've ever known. And I really do love having him on the show. And so we're getting close to 2025. We're getting close. And I've always said that I'm aiming to retire, but not at the very, very earliest. At the very earliest, I've said I'll retire, is after James Gunn's Superman comes out. That's the absolute earliest. But I could put it off until like the end of 2025. So I still probably have still a year still of doing this. And, but even when I retire, there will probably be a couple things that happen. One, I will probably still do a podcast. Like, cause it is infinitely easier to do a podcast than it is to do a YouTube show, like infinitely easier. So I may still do a podcast, like maybe 1 or 2 times a week, cause that's super easy to do and I can do it from anywhere. And there's also a possibility I take the John Campea Show and kind of hand it over to somebody else. Obviously it wouldn't be called the John Campea Show anymore, but take the show and like kind of hand it over. But I don't know. I've got a lot of options still. I haven't made up my mind yet, but I'm still going to be doing this for a while. So like, I'm not about to disappear in the next few weeks. I'm still going to be doing this for a while. All right. Thank you for that, man. I appreciate that. And thank you for supporting us on that level, Official Newbies. I really appreciate it, man. All right. Next up, Jason writes, thoughts on Sonic beating Mufasa's opening weekend. Well, I mean, it hasn't. Remember, the projection right now is that Sonic will make 55 million, Mufasa will make 50. Both of those movies are going to make a lot of money. Like they're both going to do very well, provided they're both good. But again, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, Sonic should make more opening weekend than Mufasa will, because Sonic is the 3rd chapter of an ongoing series. Mufasa is literally a prequel to a remake. It's a prequel to a remake. I still think overall Mufasa will make more money than Sonic does in the long run. Don't know that for sure, but I think it will. But regardless, I think Sonic and Mufasa will both do very, very, very well. All right. Next up. Let's see here. Luis writes, I'm enjoying Dune Prophecy and excited for Dune Messiah. I read the book. It's dark and weird, which I love. Will we get more Dune content? I think so. Listen, first of all, I'm not a fan of Dune Messiah. To be honest with you, didn't love the book. And the books get progressively weirder and worse, in my opinion, but that's just me. So now, Denis Villeneuve has said he will do some heavy adaptation, so I'm hoping that'll save the movie. Listen, I thought the first episode of Dune Prophecy was good. I liked it, but it didn't like hook me. You know what I mean? I was like, it was okay. It was good. Yeah, I liked it. The second episode hooked me. I don't think it's as good as Penguin or anything like that, but the second episode definitely hooked me. So whether or not we get more Dune content, it'll all depend on how does Dune Prophecy ultimately do. Does Dune Prophecy do really good for Max? And then how does Dune Messiah do? Does Dune Messiah make $600-700 million? Or does it flop? But if both of those do well, yeah, 100% Warner Brothers will keep doing more. Absolutely will be doing more content. Absolutely be doing more Dune stuff. All right. Dat Boy writes, my theater hasn't been this busy since 2019. Great to see people excited to go out to the movies. Remember, to be respectful to the employees and your fellow moviegoers this weekend and always. And this is going to be a busy weekend at the movie theaters. Oh my God. We've got Wicked and Gladiator in their second weekends. We got Moana in its opening weekend. This is going to be a busy weekend. There's an old saying in the dating circles that say, you know, when you ever see people do this, probably a lot of you guys have this, like the waitress test. Like if you want to gauge how, like what somebody's character is like, go out to dinner with them and see how they treat the waiter or the waitress. Right? That's a big thing to me. I'm not kidding. That is a big thing to me. When I first moved to LA and I was just dating like a horn dog, one of the big things I looked for, like first dates, always out for dinner, right? Go grab something to eat, something like that. I always paid super close attention to how they treated the waitstaff. Because if you treat the waitstaff like garbage, I think you're garbage. The same is true for how I think people treat staff at movie theaters. And listen, I get it. Things will happen at movie theaters that can be frustrating sometimes. But 90% of the time, it's not the fault of the person you're talking to. Right? You don't like the price of a soda? Don't take it out on the 18-year-old kid working behind the register. The 18-year-old kid didn't set the price. You think the volume is too loud in the theater? Don't get mad at the 16-year-old kid in there just It's not the 16-year-old kid's fault. You didn't like the movie you saw? Don't take it out on the 41-year-old mom who's got this as a side job, whatever, and is just trying to be an usher and help people to their seats. Don't take it out on her. I think if you treat people at the movie theater badly, you are a garbage person. I mean, that's just, maybe it's not fair for me to feel that way, but when I see people mistreating wait staff or I see people mistreating like movie theater staff, I just make an automatic assumption, fair or not, I just make an automatic assumption you're a piece of garbage. So yes, be nice to the people working at these theaters, because all they're trying to do, whether they succeed or not, all they're trying to do is to make your experience of the movie theater as good as you can. And remember, a lot of the big picture things are things that they do not have the ability to control. So just, in the words of Patrick Swayze in Roadhouse, in the words of the great Dalton, be nice. Be nice. Okay? Just be nice to those people. And be nice to the other movie theater goers around you. That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. Thanks for that boy. I hope you have a good weekend, man. All right, next up. Mickey Bell writes, hey, John, today is 10 years since our first The Force Awakens teaser came out. Yep, crazy how high expectations were. Still love that film. Yeah, listen, I'll tell you what. I make no apologies for it. Like, whatever I thought about where the trilogy went later on, I loved the first movie. I'll say to this day proudly, I'll defend that movie proudly. That's a great movie. They got progressively worse until they ended with The Rise of Skywalker, which was terrible. But I will always defend it. I still remember, you've heard me tell the story, me and John Schnepp, because that came out back when we still had our offices right by AMC in Burbank. And John Schnepp and I, because we could get into AMC for free, obviously. John Schnepp and I, we would finish doing the movie, what was the name of our show? Movie Talk. We had finished doing AMC Movie Talk, and later became known as Collider Movie Talk. But we finished doing Movie Talk, and then we would often have other shows we would be doing later in the afternoon. But on the days when we had like a number of hours in between those, we'd go, let's go. And Schnepp and I would run across the street, go into the AMC Burbank 16, as long as it wasn't sold out, and we would watch The Force Awakens again. We probably went and did that like 7, 8, 9 times. We saw it a bunch. And yeah, I absolutely, we loved it. We loved it. Had a great time with it. And then they got progressively worse and worse. But hey, it is what it is. 10 years. 10 years since that trailer dropped. Unbelievable. All right. Next up, Johnny Weiner writes, happy Thanksgiving for the U.S. today and Canada a month ago. Yep. Like I said, real Thanksgiving was a month ago, but happy Thanksgiving to all those in America who celebrate the day today. And that's all the questions in from you guys today. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take another couple of minutes. I'm just going to take some questions from you guys in the live chat. So do me a favor, live chat, if you are indeed live chatting right now. Wait a second. There's my chat. If you have a question for me, format it like this. Put question all in capital letters and then a colon, that you guys see it, I just put it in the live chat. Put question in capital. That way I know you're talking to me. I'm not going to read all of them. I'm not even going to read them more. I'm just going to pick a couple and I'll address a couple before I head out to meet my family. All right. Mike Kirby asked a really good question. Do you think Penguin is better than Peacemaker? That's a great question. I just said the other day, I think Peacemaker is the best DC thing that they've ever put on television. It's so hard to compare them because Peacemaker and Penguin are so wildly different shows. They're such wildly different shows. I guess the way I'll force an answer out of myself is this, is if tomorrow Peacemaker Season 2, Episode 1 and Penguin Season 2, Episode 1 were both to come out tomorrow, which one would I watch first? Honestly, probably Peacemaker Season 2, Episode 1. I'd probably watch that one first. But again, is this better than that? It's hard to say because they are such wildly different kinds of shows. But yeah, if I was put to it, I would probably watch Peacemaker Season 2, Episode 1 first. All right. Let's see. Question. Are we going to get to see Wesley Snipes in Secret Wars? I doubt it. And I'll be honest with you, I don't want to. I thought his appearance in Deadpool was chef's kiss perfection, but they're not going to drag it out. So I don't think so. Again, no insider information, just my opinion. I don't think we will. Let's see. Zarian writes, question. What are the odds that Spawn will still get made? I've never thought it's going to get made. I never thought it when a dude said 3 or 4 years ago, I'm making a Spawn movie. And I said, I don't think it's going to happen. And then a year after that, I'm still making this Spawn movie. And I said, I don't think it's going to happen. Then another year passed. I'm still making this Spawn movie. I don't think it's going to happen. I attached Jamie Foxx to the movie. I don't care. You can attach whoever you want. I don't think this movie's going to happen. Again, no insider information. And I'm not saying I hope it doesn't get made. I'm just saying I've been saying for 4 or 5 years, I don't think it's going to get made. So we'll see. John A. Amrice, are you excited for Nosferatu next month? I love Robert Eggers as a director. Ever since he did Witch, and I loved The Northman. The Northman was awesome. The Lighthouse, I still don't know what the hell that movie is, but it's incredibly artistic and beautiful to watch. I love Robert Eggers as a director. So yeah, if he's got a new movie coming out, I'll be excited to watch it. All right. Vixter writes, have you watched The Day of the Jackal show? It's pretty good. I have not, but I'm 100% going to. I think the trailers look great. You've got an Oscar winner in there playing one of the leads. I think it looks really good. And I'm excited. I want to get through Lioness first because I still haven't watched Lioness. But once I watch Lioness, then I'm going to get around to that. Jason FSFKS writes, why are you retiring? I think the reason I'm going to retire is because there's a lot of things I want to do. And listen, I get it. People sitting at home watching a YouTube show think, oh, there's nothing to it, right? You just sit in front of a camera, turn it on and go, and then you're done. Like you work an hour a day. And I get it. I understand why people who sit at home watching us do what we do feel that way. But we've done a behind the scenes thing before, but the amount of hours that go into making one of our shows, and prepping and researching and pulling data and then making graphics and pulling more information, all that kind of stuff, is considerable. And I've spent a lot of years doing it. And I am very lucky and fortunate that I've always been very good with my money. I've always been very good with my money. I've never been made an exceeding amount of money like some people think maybe I have, but I'm very good with the money I've got. And I'm very lucky that I'm in a position that I can retire. And I want to travel. I want to get more involved in local charities. Like, I mean, I know a lot of people say that, but no, serious. Ann and I have some things we very much want to be more involved in. And I just want to have that flexibility. And I'd love to, I mean, this sounds lazy. I'd love to wake up in the morning and realize, oh, I can just go back to sleep. I don't have to roll out of bed at 6:30 to start getting, I know, I kind of like that idea. And I've done this. I've been doing this for over 20 years. Like if you go back to when I started the movie blog, it's been over 20 years. It's been 21 years now. This July will be 21 years. Last summer was my 20th anniversary of doing movie punditry online. And yeah, it's not that I don't love what I do. I mean, you can't do what I do without loving it. I get to watch and talk about movies all day. It's a dream. I've been able to take something that I like, and I've been able to make a prosperous career out of it. A prosperous career out of it for 20 years, when every single year I've had so many people screaming at me that I'm going to fail within the next few months. 20 years I've been taking that. And here I am. I've been very prosperous. I've been very fortunate. I've been able to let other people make money from doing stuff like this as well. That's been a huge blessing to me. But at some point, while I'm as young as I am, like I don't want to wait till retirement age to retire. I want to retire and then get on to do some things that I'd really love to do. And like I said, even when I retire, I'm still going to be involved in some way. Like I'll still probably do a podcast. I will still probably podcast because that's really easy to do. You know, I'd love to do, man. I want to get a camper van. I want to get a B-class camper van, and I want to drive all over North America. And like with a, Starlink satellite dish on my roof, so I have full internet speed and I can live stream or podcast or do whatever from where I am. It's just a lot of things I'd like to do. I think there's just simply a lot of things I'd like to do. So, that's why I'm going to retire. And again, I'm still not exactly sure when I'm going to retire, most likely by the end of 2025. So it's still probably like a full year off, but that's why I'm kind of aiming towards that. All right. Let's see here. Okay, here we go. This will be our last question because I got to get out and meet my family. Question. Everyone talking about RDJ as Doom, but I really hope we get him as Iron Man. I mean, listen, listen, I've said this before. I am not discounting the possibility that we actually see Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. I'm not saying he will. Don't misquote me. I'm not saying he will. I'm just saying I don't discount that entirely. I think there's a possibility we do, but they're focusing on him as Dr. Doom. I'm one of the people who thinks this is absolutely brilliant. I think it opens up so many amazing possible narrative storylines for them. I think it's going to be great, and we will see. And all right, guys, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here as I try to fly solo. Thank you for being patient with all of my technical glitches and little things. I've been doing the whole thing myself today without the guys in here with me. So thank you so much for that. I will do another one of these tomorrow. I gave the whole crew the day off tomorrow, but I'll still do a solo show tomorrow. And I'll look forward to doing that. And hopefully you guys will come back and join me as well. Anyway, guys, I hope you all have a wonderful Thanksgiving with family and friends, or maybe some much needed you time and you just chill out by yourself. Whatever it is you need today, I hope you get it in spades. I'm going to go have a meal with the family, watch some football. I hope you guys have a great day. My name's John Campea, everybody. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.